Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for this hearing. I want to enter into the record an editorial from the Wall Street Journal today. It has a lot of facts in it. It's entitled Texas Spins into the Wind, and I'd like to enter that into the record.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I also want to point out, and Mr. Jett may want to look at this article, but there's a great graphic on there, very difficult to see on there, but let me just tell you that change in power output in the state of Texas from January the 18th until February the 17th, wind generation reduced by almost 20,000 megawatts. That was a 93% reduction in wind power output. At the same time, you saw coal increase by 47% and natural gas increase. This is power generation output increased by 450%. I don't know that it was necessarily the transmission to the power plants other than a diversion of some of the natural gas in Texas to meet the needs of powering and heating homes and hospitals and other communities. You know, Mr. Chairman, in my district, we get a lot of our power from nuclear power. Nuclear energy produces a lot of the electricity in the Carolinas. In fact, Duke Energy in the Carolinas has a fleet of 11 nuclear power plants and make up more than 50% of the power utility in North Carolina and South Carolina. That fleet of nuclear power plants are responsible for cleaner air where I live. In 2019 alone, this same nuclear fleet generated almost 74 billion kilowatt hours of electricity and avoided the release of more than 52 million tons of carbon dioxide. I point that out is because nuclear energy is the future if we want to lower our carbon emissions in this country. And I'm all about next gen nuclear power. I'm all about SMRs and thorium reactors and anything that we can do, Mr. Chairman. But I wanted to ask Mr. Powell, as you stated in testimony, in order to reduce CO2 emissions as fast as possible, we need to modernize the permitting process. Last Congress, I introduced a bill to modernize the review of our nuclear power reactor projects, and I plan to reintroduce this bill again in this Congress. Hope some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle will join me on that. But could you, what do you see as the biggest barrier to rapidly deploying new clean energy projects, and whether it's nuclear and other clean technologies, Mr. Powell?
Well, first, thank you, Congressman, for your leadership on nuclear innovation and supporting the existing nuclear fleet, both extremely important. ClearPath was founded in the Carolinas, and we greatly appreciate the remarkable clean energy abundance that nuclear fleet that Duke maintains provides, along with the clean air and the tax base and all the other great benefits of nuclear. You know, going forward with nuclear and continuing that, there's a couple of big challenges ahead. The first is modernizing the existing nuclear fleet so that those plants can all go through the second life extensions and can go from being 60-year plants to 80-year plants. In the wholesale power markets, the ones that aren't regulated, a lot of those nuclear plants are facing extreme economic stress due to subsidized renewables and extremely low-cost natural gas. There's a number of pieces of legislation that have been introduced in the past Congress that I think could be looked at again this year that would take a step at preserving those existing nuclear units using EPA and other authorities to keep those generating, keep those online. I think that's a really important priority. And then as we think about the future and the next generation of reactors, obviously there's a big piece around regulatory reform. You've really taken this on at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, finding ways to streamline and shorten the timelining to permit a new nuclear design is absolutely vital. Right now, the fastest the NRC can do is about 40 months. And with a lot of pre-licensing activity in front of that to get a new nuclear design license, you can't even start building or financing it before you get that design license. That's a long time, right? Any kind of innovator, right? So finding ways to shorten that down, and then once we get the plants actually what the designs license, finding ways to then get the siting and the permitting of the specific sites done in a more expeditious manner, while not sacrificing in any way safety in that siting, I think is the next big challenge.
Absolutely. And I just want to point this out that in my district alone, replacing the Oconee Nuclear Station, which is a land use of about 2 square miles with solar, will require 107 square miles of land. That's nearly 4 times the size of the city of Greenville, South Carolina. So replacing nuclear power with wind would require over 854 square miles of land. That's more land than the entirety of Anderson County, which is in my congressional district. So we've got to address all of these. I believe in nuclear. Mr. Chairman, it's a great hearing. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to continue to listen on the way out. Thanks.